there's a theme here that I'm going to talk about where I want to abolish Beatership and I want to foster Feedership. Now, what is that? Well, Beatership is a model of leadership that is very, very destructive. But they tend to get things done, these beaters. And beaters, I mean people who treat people terribly, who threaten them, who call them names, who threaten to fire them, who basically beat them into submission to get what they want. Now, you know what my description of a beater is. Have you ever worked for one of these people? You have. So what were some of the characteristics? You don't have to use names, but what were some of the characteristics of this particular person? What is it that they did that you found pretty atrocious? Pardon? They loud and they shout all the time, okay? Their ego is huge, isn't it? Right. Yes?
They actually build whatever success in the organization to themselves, even if they have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, they take credit for all the success, don't they? And where does the failure go?
To everyone else.
To everybody else, that's right.
They're insecure.
Yeah, they were insecure. You know, this is bully behavior. And bullies tend to be insecure. They want to come off very strong and very bold. But the fact is they don't have enough confidence in themselves to become what I call feeders. Now, here's, you know, I don't want to totally discount beatership because there are some behaviors that beaters do that come in handy, all right? For instance, when would shouting or bullying people be a good leadership quality? When people are not on time. Okay, yeah.
I think in scenarios where unprecedented leadership and execution that is required without questioning, like say in the military, for example, when we're at war, for example, you need people to do exactly what you say without them saying, but we think that, you know, kind of.
You can't do it by committee when you're in the middle of a war, can you? No. So you're talking a crisis situation, right? If your house is on fire, you're not going to sit there and say, you know, really, you need to come on and get out of bed. You need to just come with me. Come on. No. What are you doing? Hey, come on, let's go. Let's get out of here. Let's move, right? So there are times when that kind of leadership is necessary. During World War II, Winston Churchill was this kind of leader. If he hadn't been this kind of leader, I don't know that we would have won the war over there, right? There are crisis situations. In our own country, 9/11. You know, in your countries, you've had other atrocities that happened. And during those atrocities, people had to act fast. They couldn't wait for a committee to make a decision. They couldn't be nice. They had to make things happen. So, but here's the issue with the beatership model. You can only use it for short stints and at very specific times. If you adopt this as a leadership model for yourself, eventually the people who supported you are going to fall apart. They're going to leave you. They're not going to stick around. I had, years ago, I was in the jewelry business. I managed jewelry stores. And our district manager was what I would call a maniac. And he was the kind of guy that if you were down in your sales for 1 week, he would call you up and he would call you every name in the book. He would scream and yell, all the behaviors that we've talked about here. And it didn't matter if you're male or female. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't get sued a couple times, especially with the females, because he said some things that were just unacceptable. And I worked there about 2 months for him, and I was trying to figure out how to handle this person. And this is the honest goodness truth. I decided one day to, instead of saying, oh, you know, sir, I'm sorry we were down this month, and have him screaming in my ear, I thought, well, I'm going to use reverse psychology here. So every Monday morning he would call up and he would ask for the sales figures from the week before. And my staff would cringe because they knew what was coming if we were down. So on this particular Monday we were down, and I told my staff, I said, look, when I get on the phone, I don't want you to pay any attention to what I'm saying. And they said, okay. So he called And sure enough, we were down, and he started screaming and yelling. I said, "Sir, I agree with you." I said, "In fact, I'm so sick and tired of these people who work for me, I'm going to fire the whole bunch. They are the stupidest people I've ever met in my life. I can't believe that we actually hired these people." And I started ranting and raving on the phone to him. And all of a sudden he went, "Now, Mark, settle down. Settle down. It's okay. It'll be better next week." And my staff is sitting there with their jaw dropping down to the ground. And I said, "No, I'm going to get rid of him." He goes, "No, no, no, don't do that. You know, they're good people, and they'll hang in there with you, okay?" So I hung up the phone, and I turned around and I said, "That's how you handle this idiot." So every Monday when we were down, I would go through the same rigmarole, and he never once yelled at me. He was selling me down, okay? Now, I decided after about 3 months of that, I didn't want to do that anymore, so I left the company. Now, here's the funny thing. I'm sitting down with him to tell him that I'm leaving the company. And I said, "Sir, this is why I'm leaving the company." And I was very blunt with him because I was leaving the company. I didn't care. I said, "I don't think you're a very good manager. In fact, I think you're an idiot." And he looked at me with this look of like he couldn't believe I was saying this. And I said, "You are the rudest, most disrespectful man I've ever met." I said, "I am surprised that this company has not been sued because of you. And because of that, I'm leaving because I have more self-respect for myself than that." And he looked at me and he said, "Now that's the spirit." And I said, "What?" And he said, "That's what I wanted from you. I wanted you to fight for it. I wanted you to," he says, "Boy," he says, "I'm sorry you're leaving. I just love the way you approach me." Now I'm thinking, this guy's got to be nuts, okay? You really, right? And I said, "Well, I can't work under these circumstances. I'm sure that you like the way I approached you because that's the way you would approach people, but I can't do that." But it just goes to prove that there are people who have this Beatership model in their head that everybody should act like this. That's the way you get things done. Here's the problem with this particular person. He would go into an area, a region, and sure, sales would pick up. Why? Why do you think sales picked up? People are afraid, right? So the people are afraid. They started, doing things they would never do before. Some of them unscrupulous. They would do anything to make the sale. But the best people left. The best people left the company. So you're left with the mediocre people and the people who were in the lower classes, right, in terms of their talent. And so when he left the region, what do you think happened to sales? Took a dive, right? So they would say, "Wow, this guy's something else." He goes into the region, sales go up. He leaves the region, the sales go down. Well, it was very short-term thinking, and they finally caught up to him. They finally did fire him when they found out what was going on. But the fact is that we're going to run into people like this all the time, and it's not unusual. They are in academia. Trust me, they are in academia. They are in business. They are in nonprofit organizations. They are everywhere. So I want to talk about abolishing that and fostering feedership.